Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Be sure to subscribe to our channel. We publish new videos every day. Don't forget, grab your smartphone and download the Lava Matra app and stay in touch. Guru Maharaj's message is your advantage. The following is a Sri Krishna Chaitanya book compilation given by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj on December 9th, 2022 in Sri Mayapur, India.
Bangun langayate giri Sri Gurum Dhinatharyam Sri Chaitanya Meshwaram Om Tat Sat.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
Hari
Bol. Hari Jai. So today we will be continuing with the compilation of the Sri Krishna Chaitanya book. Today's chapter is entitled, today we will be continuing with the part 2 of the chapter entitled Swarup Damodar points out the offense of the poet and provides him the remedy. Part 2, under the section Pradyumna Mishra takes instruction from Ramananda Rai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antyalila 5.122
অদ্বয় জ্ঞান বিষ্ণুর নাম বিগ্রহ ও স্বরূপ একই ঈশ্বরের নাহি কবু দেহ দেহি ভেদ স্বরূপ দেহ চিদানন্দ নাহি কবিভেদ.
At no time is there a distinction between the body and the soul of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His personal identity and his body are made of blissful spiritual energy. There is no distinction between them. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is Advaya Gyan. In other words, there is no distinction between his body and soul, for his existence is completely spiritual. According to the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning with the verse Vadanti Tat Tattva Vidas Tattvam 1.2.11 Srimad Bhagavatam, the absolute truth is always to be understood from three angles of vision as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan, unlike the objects of the material world. However, the absolute truth is always one and always the same. There is no distinction between his body and his soul. His form, name, attributes and pastimes therefore are completely distinct from those of the material world. One should know perfectly well that there is no difference between the body of the soul of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one conceives a distinction between his body and his soul, one is immediately conditioned by material nature. Because a person in the material world makes such distinction, he is called Baddha Jiva, a conditioned soul.
So, the Supreme Personality
So the Supreme Personality of Godhead
is always non-different from his body and soul.
is always non-different from his body and soul.
He is completely Satchidananda spiritual.
He is completely Satchidananda spiritual.
In the material world, the fragmental living entities are distinct from their bodies.
In this material world, the fragmental living entities are distinct from their bodies.
And we divide in a female body or male body and they change their body from life to life.
So they may be born in a female body or male body that may change their body, they may change their body life to life.
But in the spiritual world, there's no birth and death, there's no change of body.
So in the spiritual world, because there is no death, there is no change of body.
So the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual, and therefore his soul, his body are all one.
The Supreme Lord is completely spiritual, therefore his soul, his body are all one.
When we chant the name of the Lord, that's spiritual, his satisfying are spiritual, everything in relation to Krishna is spiritual.
So if you chant his body, if you chant his name, that is described as spiritual because everything related to Krishna is spiritual. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila 5.1-3
লঘু ভাগবতামৃত 1:5-342 ধৃত কর্মবচনে বলা হয়েছে
Deha dehi vibhagoyam neshware vidyate kvachit. There is no distinction between the body and the soul of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at any time. This quotation, which is included in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita 1.5.342, is from Kurma Purana.
So, all the Puranas written by Vyasdeva, and therefore this distinction of the Lord.
So all the Puranas written by Vyasadeva, therefore this distinction of the Lord
is mentioned in the Smriti Shastra.
is mentioned in the Smriti Shastra. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila 5.124-25
শ্রীমদ্ ভাগবতের তৃতীয় স্কন্ধের নবম অধ্যায়ের 3 থেকে 4 শ্লোকে বলা হয়েছে
नाथ परम परमयद भवत स्वरूपम आनंद मात्रम अविकल्प विविध वर्च पश्यामि O my Lord, I do not see a form superior to your present form of eternal bliss and knowledge. In your impersonal Brahman effulgence, in the spiritual sky, there is no occasional change and no deterioration of internal potency. I surrender unto you because, whereas I am proud of my material body and senses, your Lordship is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, yet you are untouched by my purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This present form or any transcendental form expanded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is equally auspicious for all the universes. Since you have manifested this eternal personal form upon whom your devotees meditate, I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Those who are destined to be dispatched to the path of hell neglect your personal form because of speculating on material topics. I think Gurumai, this is the part of the translation. These verses are from Srimad Bhagavatam 3.9.3-4 were spoken by Lord Brahma.
So, Srimad Bhagavad Purana also mentions a similar truth.
So, Srimad Bhagavata Puran also mentions the similar truth.
That the Lord and the body and soul all spiritual.
That the Lord, His body, His soul are all spiritual.
And no difference.
There is no difference. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila 5.126
পরমেশ্বর বিষ্ণু ও বৎস জীবে ভেদ। কাহা পূর্ণানন্দ ঐশ্বর্য কৃষ্ণ মহেশ্বর, কাহা ক্ষুদ্র জীব দুঃখী মায়ের কিঙ্কর।
Whereas Krishna, the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, is full of transcendental bliss, possesses all six spiritual opulences in full, and is the master of the material energy. The small conditioned soul, who is always unhappy, is the servant of the material nature. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, the living entity is an ever-conditioned servant of the material nature, material energy, whereas Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the master of the material energy. How then could they be on an equal level? There can be no comparison between them. His Lordship is always in a happy condition of transcendental bliss, whereas the conditioned soul is always unhappy because of his contact with the material energy. The Supreme Lord controls the material energy, and the material energy controls the conditioned souls. There is therefore no comparison between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the ordinary living entities.
All living entities either Nitya Mukta or Nitya Baddha.
So the living entities are either Nitya Muktas or Nitya Baddhas.
But the Supreme Personality is always on a different level.
But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always on a different level.
He possesses all the six opulences,
He possesses all the six opulences,
and he is completely spiritual.
and he is completely spiritual.
He controls the material nature.
He controls the material nature.
He's not under the control of the material nature.
He is not under the control of the material nature,
As are the living entities
as are the living entities
in this material world.
in this material world. Okay, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antyalila 5.121.
প্রমাণ ভগবৎ সন্দর্ভে ধৃত সর্বজ্ঞ সুক্ত বাক্য ভাগবতের 1-7-6 শ্লোকের টিকায় শ্রীধর স্বামীর উদ্ধৃত শ্রী বিষ্ণু স্বামী বাক্যতে রয়েছে।
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, is always full of transcendental bliss and is accompanied by the potencies known as Hladini and Samvit. The conditioned soul, however, is always covered by ignorance and embarrassed by the threefold miseries of life. Thus, he is a treasure house of all kinds of tribulations. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, this verse is found in Sridhar Swami's Bhavartha Deepika 1.7.6, wherein he quotes Sri Vishnu Swami.
The living entities suffer the threefold tribulations.
The living entity suffer the threefold tribulations.
Aditya, Adinutta, Adhyatma.
Adideva, Adibhuta, Adhyatma.
Travels from the body, travels from the other entities, and travels from nature.
Troubles from the body, troubles from the other entities, troubles from nature. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antyalila 5.128.
সকলের বিস্ময় শুনি সভাসদের চিত্তে হইল চমৎকার সত্য কহে গোসাই দোহার করিয়াছে তিরস্কার।
Hearing this explanation, all the members of the assembly were struck with wonder. Swarup Damodar has spoken the real truth, they admitted. The Brahmana from Bengal has committed an offense by wrongly describing Lord Jagannath and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
So, all the ladies who had praised the poetry of the Brahmin from Bengal,
So all the devotees who had praised the poetry of the Brahmin from Bengal,
now having heard the explanation of Swarup
they are now having heard the explanation of Swarup Damodar.
they believe that his explanation was correct and the Brahmana had committed offense.
They admitted that his explanation was correct and the Brahmin has committed an offense. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antyalila 5.129.
অক্ষজ গানী প্রাকৃত কবির লজ্জা ভয় ও বিস্ময় শুনিয়া কবির হইল লজ্জা ভয় বিস্ময় হংস মধ্যে বক জইছে কিছু নাহি কয়।
When the Bengali poet heard this chastisement from Swarup Damodar Goswami, he was ashamed, fearful and astonished. Indeed, being like a duck in a society of white swans, he could not say anything. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antyalila 5.130.
So, the poet from Bengal,
So the poet from Bengal,
he was very ashamed and he could not say anything.
was very ashamed and he could not say anything.
So Brahmana is very merciful.
But Swarup Damodar is very merciful.
So, he may give some solution for the Brahman.
So he may give some solution for the Brahmin.
শ্রী চৈতন্য চরিতামৃত অন্তলীলা 5.130 মহাবদান্য শ্রী স্বরূপের অমন্দ দয়া দয়া তার দুঃখ দেখি স্বরূপ পরম সদয় উপদেশ কইলা তারে জৈছে হিত হয়।
Seeing the poet's unhappiness, Swarup Damodar Goswami, who was naturally very kind-hearted, advised him so that he could derive some benefit. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antyalila 5.131.
তদ উপলক্ষে সর্বজীবের প্রতি বৈষ্ণব আচার্য অভিন্ন গৌর শ্রী স্বরূপের চরম হিত উপদেশ যাহ ভাগবত পর বৈষ্ণবের স্নানে একান্ত আশ্রয় কর চৈতন্য চরণে।
If you want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, he said, you must approach a self-realized Vaishnava and hear from him. You can do this when you have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Herein, Swarup Damodar Goswami instructs the poet from Bengal to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a pure Vaishnava and learn from him. In India especially, there is now a class of professional Bhagavatam readers whose means of livelihood is to go from village to village, town to town, reading Bhagavatam and collecting dakshina or rewards in the form of money or goods like umbrella, cloth and fruit. Thus, there is now a system of Bhagavat business with recitations of Bhagavat Saptaha that continue for 1 week, although this is not mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Nowhere does Srimad Bhagavatam say that the Bhagavatam should be heard for 1 week from professionals. Rather, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.17 says, Shinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. One should regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a self-realized Vaishnava. By such hearing, one becomes pious. Hridyantosto hi abatrani vidunoti suhrit satam. As one thus hears the Bhagavatam regularly and sincerely, his heart is purified from all material contamination. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloker bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regularly hearing the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Bhagavatam 1.2.18. This is the proper process, but people are accustomed to being misled by professional Bhagavatam reciters. Therefore, Swarup Damodar Goswami herein advises that one should not hear Srimad Bhagavatam from professional reciters. Instead, one must hear and learn Bhagavatam from a self-realized Vaishnava. Sometimes it is seen that when a Mayavadi sannyas reads the Bhagavatam, flocks of men go to hear jugglery of words that cannot awaken their dormant love for Krishna. Sometimes people go to see professional dramas and offer food and money to the players, who are expert at collecting these offerings very nicely. The result is that the members of the audience remain in the same position of Grihamanda Kupam, family affection, and do not awaken their love for Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.30 it is said, Matirna Krishne pratasvato vamito abhipretyata grihavratanam. The Grihavratas, those who are determined to continue following the materialistic way of life, will never awaken their dormant love of Krishna. For they hear the Bhagavatam only to solidify their position in household life and to be happy in family affairs and sex. Condemning the processes of hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the professionals, Swarup Goswami say, Jaha Bhagavata Paro Vaishnaver Sthane. To understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, you must approach a self-realized Vaishnava. One should rigidly avoid hearing Bhagavatam from a Mayavadi or other non-devotee who simply performs a grammatical jugglery of words to twist some meaning from the text, collect money from the innocent public, and thus keep people in darkness. Swarup Damodar Goswami strictly prohibits the behavior of the materialistic so-called hearers of Srimad Bhagavatam. Instead of awakening real love for Krishna, such hearers of the Bhagavatam become more and more attached to household affairs and sex life. Yanmaitu nadi grihamedi sukham hitucham. One should hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a person who has no connection with material activities. In other words, from a Paramahamsa Vaishnava who has achieved the highest stage of sannyas. This, of course, is not possible unless one takes the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srimad Bhagavatam is understandable only for one who can follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
So Prabhupada in his lecture 1973 in London,
Srila Prabhupada in his lecture 1973 in London,
he requested that he asked the followers should also become Paramahamsas.
He requested that his Grahastha followers also should become Paramahamsas.
I know.
Hari Bol. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Leela 5.132.
চৈতন্য ভক্ত ও শুদ্ধ চিত্তবৃত্তির অনুশীলনকারীর সঙ্গ ফলেই শুদ্ধ ভক্তি সিদ্ধান্ত জ্ঞান লাভ। চৈতন্যের ভক্তগণের নিত্য কর সঙ্গ, তবে তো জানিব সিদ্ধান্ত সমুদ্র তরঙ্গ।
Swarup Damodar continued, associate regularly with the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for then only will you understand the waves of the ocean of devotional service purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It is clearly to be understood in this connection that the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's way of devotional service are eternal associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and perfect knowers of the Absolute Truth. If one immediately follows the principles of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by associating with lusty desires for material enjoyment will vanish from one's heart, then one will be able to understand the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam and the purpose of listening to it. Otherwise, such understanding is impossible.
Lord Chaitanya appeared from the spiritual world
So Lord Chaitanya appeared from the spiritual world
just to give the conditioned souls this greatest of gifts.
just to give the conditioned soul the greatest of all gifts,
Pure love for Lord Krishna.
pure love for Lord Krishna.
So Damodar Maharaj is recommending that everyone should take shelter of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet.
So Swarup Damodar Maharaj is recommending that everyone should take shelter of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antyalila 5.133.
ভক্তি সিদ্ধান্ত জ্ঞানেই বিদ্যা ও পাণ্ডিত্যের ফল, তবে তো পাণ্ডিত্য তোমার হইবে সফল। কৃষ্ণের স্বরূপ লীলা বর্ণিবা নির্মল।
Only if you follow the principles of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees will your learning be successful. Then you will be able to write about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna without material contamination.
So actually realizing the true spiritual nature
So actually realizing the true spiritual nature
of Krishna and his pastimes
of Krishna and his pastimes
will automatically come if he follows this advice of Sri Damodar Goswami.
will automatically come if he follows this advice of Swarup Damodar Goswami. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antyalila 5.134.
শ্লোক করিয়াছ পাইয়া সন্তোষ, তোমার হৃদয়ের অর্থে দুহায় লাগে দোষ।
You have composed this introductory verse to your great satisfaction, but the meaning you have expressed is contaminated by offences to both Lord Jagannath and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
So the poet from Bengal, he wanted to offer a nice poetry for Lord Chaitanya.
So the poet from Bengal, he wanted to offer a nice poetry for Lord Chaitanya.
But because he didn't know the proper philosophy,
But since he did not know the proper philosophy,
he ended up committing offenses.
he ended up committing offences.
And now he has the way to correct it.
But now he has the way to correct it. Thus ends the chapter entitled Swarup Damodar points out the offense of the poet and provides him the remedy under the section How Pradyumna Mishra Received Instruction from Ramananda Rai.
Thank you for watching our videos. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. We publish new videos every day, and don't forget to like and share our channel.